What's the biggest overreaction you've ever seen? I parked in my ex-boyfriend's driveway to spend the night with him at his lake house. Huge driveway, 3-car garage, plenty of space. I parked at the end of the driveway, so anyone could get into or out of the garage if they needed to. His sister came over super early in the morning, think 5:30 a.m., to retrieve a pair of shoes she had left there. She got angry that I was parked in her space. She punched a wall, destroyed my cell phone and purse, threw my shoes into the lake, then slit my boyfriend's cheek and chest with a butcher knife when he came downstairs to see what the racket was about. I was hiding under the bed while she destroyed the house and assaulted him. Cops were called. She got into her car and drove off, only to go back to her own apartment and attempt suicide. Once they stabilized her after the OD, her mother, his stepmother, had the gall to call me screaming that her daughter wouldn't have overdosed if I had just parked in a different spot. It was surreal. I was working as a cashier at a shitty retail chain, let's call it Kfart, which was closing. Policy when a store is under liquidation is no coupons. There was another Kfart across town, so local papers would have their coupons. Of course, then, I had to regularly deny coupons when people would try to double up. Apparently 75% off toilet paper wasn't good enough. They needed the extra 30% off and couldn't see why we wouldn't allow this. Anyway, I denied a coupon from a college professor I was taking a class with the next semester. We chatted about the upcoming class and were getting along until she handed me the coupon and I said, "I'm sorry, we can't accept coupons during liquidation. You can use it at our store on the other side of town though." She kinda just stared at me and I swear her eye twitched. She was like, "Oh, well, I never shop at stores like this, so could you just accept it?" I clipped it specifically for this trip. After a couple more back and forth routines and my manager backing me up, she kinda just frowned at me and glared, swiped her card, and legitimately stomped out of the store. I kinda just shrugged, assumed it was because of the heat or something, and carried on. Fast forward to our class together, she somehow managed to call my name every single week. Papers would get lost, emails would never be responded until the last possible minute. And of course, she lost my final essay for a couple weeks, so my grade was an F, unsatisfactory, for a few weeks until I filed a report with the dean, and she magically found it, and gave me a B, good. Still bitter. It was a stupid coupon. At age 12, on a family vacation in Thailand, I saw a bus driver rear-end a police car in traffic. We're talking the tiniest imaginable collision. It barely made contact and couldn't possibly have caused any actual damage. The cop got out of his car with his gun drawn, got on the bus, and put the barrel to the driver's head. Held my breath for what felt like a minute while I waited to see if I was about to see a stranger's brains get blown out for no good reason. Finally, the cop settled for holstering the gun and beating the driver unconscious with his fists instead. I broke up with the girl. In reality, we hadn't been dating in over a year, but she still found a way to keep me hanging on just enough to be her own personal lost puppy. I finally told her, no contact. She promptly got absolutely shit-faced, threw a rock through my bathroom window, slashed her wrists, and got taken to the hospital in cuffs by the police. Then, she was back. She escaped from the hospital not 20 minutes later and ran back to my apartment completely naked, with a hospital gown thrown over her shoulder. So, that was a wild ride. Lived with my aunt for a few months while I was saving for an apartment. We were watching Quiz Game one night, and a question about a British colony that wound up vanishing mysteriously came up. She instantly yelled out Jamestown. I said in what I'm still sure was a polite tone, "If they're talking about the one that disappeared, I think they're looking for Roanoke actually." She scoffed, then when the correct answer of Roanoke popped up, she threw the remote down, went, "Well, you must think I'm pretty fucking stupid, huh?" and stormed out of the room. Refused to speak with me for like 3 days. Best 3 days of your life, huh? When I was 12, I got home from school to find all the contents of my bedroom that could be thrown out of the window in the front yard. Why? Because my mother had found socks in the underwear drawer, or the other way around, and thought this was unacceptable. Interesting childhood. I think you might have been my neighbor growing up. Their mom once threw all the dishes out the window because the kids didn't wash them or something. Did the same thing with their clothes at different time. We always knew it was spring because she would open the windows and we could hear her screaming about whatever she was pissed about that day. I was at McDonald's once and this heavy-set lady started flipping out because she said they stole her credit card while she was eating. She started to freak out and slam her tray against the front counter saying that they could have already bought a ton of stuff online, and she wanted her money back and reimbursement if they did buy anything. The manager came out and the lady insisted that he called the police, which he obliged. The police came and watched her search her bag. As she was walking back to the table where she said they stole it, the police officer goes, "Ma'am, the card is stuck to the back of your thigh." 3.5-year-old son, getting ready for bed. He had happily changed into his pajamas, brushed his teeth, and put his toys away preparing for sleepy bye, when I told him to climb into bed and I would tuck him in. Absolute ape shit in an instant, immediate hot tears streaming down his face, hiccuping with complete fury at the thought of having to sleep, as if the first 3 things we had done had nothing at all to do with bedtime. Me, exhausted and confused, looked at him and said, "Dude, I'm going to sleep too. So is your mother. So are the dogs. You sleep every night, it's not that big of a deal. Just go to bed." It was like I flipped a switch that he couldn't find in his head. "Oh, okay." And that was it. Climbed into bed, fell asleep. Had not happened before this night, has not happened since. Nuclear meltdown over bedtime, what a fact. My mom walked into my room while I was almost done cleaning, looked at my almost clean desk, and threw everything on the ground, breaking some of my things and screaming at me for having such a disgusting room. She's usually super sweet, but she was having a terrible day, and my room had looked a bit messy for 2 weeks since I was working 2 manual labor jobs and was almost never home. I basically got home, showered, and passed out, then got up early in the morning to leave. But at that point I was finally getting to my room. So needless to say, I simply walked out the door and went to a friend's house until she called me and apologized for going off on me for no good reason. Even my dad was on my side, and he's never on my side. Grade 4. I bring my binder up to the teacher's desk to show her my homework, can't remember what it was. She looks at it for a few seconds and suddenly picks the binder up and heaves it across the classroom without a word. It lands with a thud and a crack as it tears and the rings pop all out of alignment. I was stunned. All I could do was go pick up my binder and sit down again. Told my parents that night when they asked, "How was your day at school?" and they had the school put me in another class for the year. My friend once got into the car crying hysterically after I picked her up from work. She wouldn't talk to me and would just scream angry if I asked what happened. After about 30 minutes of coaxing, she told me they fired her for stealing. This is the girl who worked at a deli and bragged about stealing upwards of $200 a day from them, thinking they wouldn't notice. What's the biggest overreaction you've ever seen? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.